I don't love you anymore, Claire. Ethan didn't whisper it. He didn't say it privately or even gently. He said it standing at the head of his parents' 25th anniversary dinner, champagne glass raised, a thin smile on his face like he'd just delivered a clever joke. The entire table went silent. Crystal glasses hovered midair. His sister's fork clinked against her plate. His mother didn't look surprised. In fact, the corner of her mouth lifted slightly, as if this moment had been long overdue. That's when I knew. This wasn't impulsive. It was planned. My name is Claire Bennett. I was 31 years old that night. I had been married to Ethan for 7 years. 7 years of working remotely as a brand strategist while he climbed his way up the executive ladder at a consulting firm. 7 years of smiling politely at family dinners while his mother asked when I'd transition into something more stable. 7 years of being introduced as Claire does some online creative work, while Ethan's achievements were recited like scripture. I wasn't loud. I didn't come from money. I wore simple dresses to corporate galas and listened more than I spoke. To his family, I was background noise, temporary, replaceable. But I had something none of them paid attention to. I was patient, and patience, when paired with preparation, is power. The anniversary dinner was held at a private dining room in one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. Gold lighting, long mahogany table, staff in pressed uniforms gliding around like shadows. Ethan's father gave a speech about loyalty and legacy. His sister toasted to family success stories. I sat beside my husband, hands folded in my lap, trying to ignore the tension that had been growing between us for months. He'd been distant, colder, protective of his phone, coming home later and later with vague explanations. Still, I didn't expect public execution. I think we should stop pretending, Ethan continued, setting his glass down carefully. Claire and I have grown apart. I haven't loved her in a long time. The words hit the table like shattered glass. I stared at him. Why would you say this here? I managed to whisper. He shrugged slightly. Because honesty matters. Honesty. His mother reached over and patted his arm. It's brave to admit when something isn't working, she said softly. Brave. I felt heat rise in my face, but I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply sat there while his family resumed their meal as if a contract had just been canceled instead of a marriage dismantled. The next morning, Ethan stood in our kitchen with a legal envelope in his hand. I've already spoken to a lawyer, he said. It's better if we handle this efficiently. Efficiently. Is there someone else? I asked quietly. He didn't answer directly. He didn't have to. 3 days later, I saw the answer myself. A photo on LinkedIn first, then Instagram. Ethan standing beside a woman from his firm, elegant, polished, MBA from an Ivy League school. Her name was Marissa. The caption read, "New beginnings. Growth requires courage." The comments were congratulatory. You deserve someone on your level. Power couple. Upgrade. I closed the app and set my phone down. What Ethan didn't know, what he never bothered to know, was that while he was building his corporate image, I was building something quieter, but far more substantial. 3 years earlier, I'd begun consulting for a mid-sized e-commerce platform. At first, it was basic brand alignment work, then strategic positioning, then long-term growth modeling. I was no longer just designing logos or writing taglines. I was shaping expansion strategy. A year into the partnership, the founder called me. We can't increase your retainer right now, he admitted, but we can offer equity, small percentage, long-term. I asked one question. What do you see this company becoming? He answered without hesitation. I accepted the equity. Ethan never asked about that contract. He barely asked about my work at all. To him, I was freelancing from the couch. He didn't know I was attending investor calls at midnight because of time zones. He didn't notice when my calendar filled with strategy sessions. 6 months before the anniversary dinner, that company finalized negotiations with a global retail conglomerate. The acquisition hadn't been public yet. My equity stake? Worth just over $480,000 after taxes. The paperwork sat in a password-protected folder on my laptop. The night Ethan humiliated me at dinner, I didn't react because I already understood something he didn't. Timing matters. He filed for divorce within 2 weeks. His attorney proposed a clean split. He keeps the condo, technically purchased under his name, though I'd contributed to mortgage payments. He keeps his investment accounts. I keep my small creative business. I almost laughed when I read it. Marital assets include equity acquired during the marriage. I called Daniel Harper, a corporate attorney I'd once helped rebrand. He owed me a favor. After reviewing the documents, he leaned back in his chair. "Does your husband know about this equity?" he asked. "No," I replied. "Then he's about to learn a very expensive lesson." Ethan texted me constantly in those early weeks, but only about logistics, furniture, movers, which artwork belonged to whom. There was no apology, no acknowledgement of cruelty, only impatience. His mother sent a message too. "Claire, I hope you'll handle this gracefully. Ethan deserves a partner who matches his ambition." I typed a response, deleted it. Silence was more effective. The divorce mediation meeting was scheduled for a Friday morning in a sleek downtown office. Ethan arrived in a tailored navy suit. Marissa wasn't there, but her presence lingered like perfume. "Let's finalize this," he said briskly. "There's no need to drag it out." I nodded and slid a folder across the table. "What's this?" he asked. "Documentation," my attorney replied smoothly, "regarding Mrs. Bennett's equity holdings." Ethan frowned. "What equity?" Daniel explained calmly, the percentage, the acquisition, the valuation. The color drained from his face. "That's impossible," he said. "She works from home." "Yes, and during the marriage, she acquired a substantial ownership stake in a company that has since been purchased. That stake is marital property." Ethan looked at me as if seeing me for the first time. "You never said anything." "You never asked," I answered quietly. The room shifted. His earlier confidence dissolved into frantic calculation. He whispered to his attorney. Numbers were scribbled, assets reevaluated. The condo suddenly mattered less than liquidity. The final settlement looked very different from his original proposal. We split everything equitably. The condo was sold, investment accounts divided. My equity payout remained partially mine, but legally balanced under marital law. He didn't get to walk away with the narrative that I was small. Word traveled quickly within his firm, not about the money, that remained confidential, but about the correction, the fact that he had underestimated his own wife so severely that he nearly forfeited $500,000 by ignorance alone. Marissa's presence on his social media became less frequent. Meanwhile, I moved into a sunlit loft with exposed brick and enough space to build a real studio. I registered my own consultancy formally, hired an operations manager, and began working with founders who valued strategic thinking over flashy titles. 6 months after the divorce finalized, I was invited to speak at a branding conference. I stepped onto the stage in a tailored charcoal suit, not a thrift store dress, not because I had to prove anything, but because I wanted to. During the Q&A session, someone asked how I handled professional underestimation. I smiled. "Silence isn't weakness," I said. "It's often preparation." Ethan texted once, months later. "I didn't realize what you were building." I read it twice, then I archived the conversation. He said "I don't love you anymore" to humiliate me, to frame me as inadequate, to place himself above me in front of an audience. He thought public cruelty would shrink me. Instead, it exposed how little he understood the person sitting beside him for 7 years. He mistook silence for small. He mistook patience for passivity. And he mistook control for power. What he never realized is that power doesn't always announce itself at the head of the table with the raised glass. Sometimes it sits quietly, listens carefully, signs the right documents, and waits for the moment when truth becomes undeniable. He wanted to destroy me with one sentence. All he did was accelerate my freedom.